Dr. Rajiv. He has already delivered the keynote, so I would like to welcome Dr. Rajiv here. And Annie Matthew, she has already introduced herself a few minutes earlier. Annie is a quick introduction. Annie Matthew is the head of BlackBerry India. She is responsible for all the alliance partners. Okay, got it. Alliances members. She is head of all alliances and partners for BlackBerry India, and she is a keen follower of technologies and needless to say, she has helped incubate a lot of companies and small startups to develop mobile applications for BlackBerry and BlackBerry platforms. And also I would like to invite Mukund Sathe. Mukund has been in the space of IT industry for the last 20 years, 25 years. And he's he's a vice president of core education and technologies. And I would also like to invite Kedar Patil. Kedar is a mobile head. He's a mobility personified, I should say. Right from the days when we had the big handheld Palm operating system. Ranjit is a keen, as he says, he's a geek user experience person. So he's a mix of both technology and user experience. He's a champion. He champions the user experience aspect. I'll help you do that. Thank you. So I would now like to request the panelists to actually try and channel your thoughts on the theme that we have got. What's the next big thing? We're talking about all these mobile things. We've got tablets. We have all the digital, as Dr. Rajiv just mentioned in the morning. The Google Glass and all these wearable technologies that we just discussed a few minutes earlier. So in the context of, I understand you have mics, all of you. Okay. How about the lapel? Here are the mics now. You okay? Microphony, cacophony, otherwise. All right. So I would like to start off with where Dr. Rajiv left in the morning. He was talking about Dr. Rajiv. You were talking about the Google Glass and also some of the conversations after your talk went into the alleys of intrusion of privacy with Facebook and the likes. So with Google Glass and these kind of technologies, what is there's one, on the one hand you've got the advantage of giving the real-time data, but on the other hand you've got some other challenges with them. So could you just talk about a few of them? I think, yeah, that's the one, yeah.
Hello. I think, see, as more and more devices are becoming popular, all these are getting into our privacy, which is one of the biggest concerns that, and at times what happens is, as one gentleman said today, no, I just liked it, but it just went on and there is some information which I didn't want others to see that have seen. So during some of the pilot projects that we have been doing, definitely such experiences have come. One of the two instances that I can tell you, so two pilot projects which we did, especially with devices. It was almost an year and a half back on a tablet. We have did that project for one of our client, which is United Spirits. It is in spirit space. And the application is a nice menu in a high-end restaurant, and you go there, waiter gives the menu and you can see everything, and we got all the pictures photographed by high-end photographers so that, if you see the picture of the food item, it should tempt people to eat. And if you see it has been sponsored by United Spirits, so you know the objective. Objective is not food. And it has an they wanted some features like, you can take a picture from the app itself and it just goes to Facebook and all this, and also as you see, you can write your, status saying that I am sitting in Jeffrey's pub in, Bangalore or whatever, and then it all started going. But people, so this, people consuming what USL produces is, for many people, it is very private. They wouldn't like the public to, or their friends and family to, there is a lot of privacy involved, a very different kind of privacy. So this was the feature, the brand manager of whichever brand we have been doing from US was saying, no, I want this feature. So I've been saying, will this feature work? It's very private. He said, no, I want if it goes to, see, what for United Spirits, that customer, what is their currency? The currency is actually social currency. So if I share, it goes to 200 of my friends and their friends will see it. So what happens is, that is the return on investment is these many people have seen from a marketeer's point of view, which is a big return on investment. But in 2 weeks' time, we had to just strip off these features because people stopped using once that feature is seen. Even without my knowledge, when I do a Facebook connect onto the app, the moment you just log into the app itself is, such and such user has logged into this app and all this started happening. I think so. Fundamentally, what we use is, I think, as you said, this is becoming a dichotomy kind of thing. We just wanted to, spread, and the brands want to get into, more impressions of what consumers are doing, and it is getting into the consumer's privacy. So as we get these kind of devices, whether Google Glass or this mobiles and all, these buttons, even inadvertently we go and tap on those buttons, and what happens? We have to be extremely, extremely careful. So I think the issue with the privacy issue is very, very, very critical. It is not just going and what kind of information, and it is becoming a more complex world. And even the second, the pilot example was also exactly similar kind of situation, because it is the non-desirable aspect of social network from a consumer's point of view, which is the most desirable aspects from a marketeer's point of view. I think there is this one happening there.
Brilliant. I think you rightly touched upon the aspect of dichotomy. There's on the one hand, there's a positive of the applications being used and the impressions. On the other hand, you've got the aspect of the moral aspect of it, and also the privacy has been a big concern. I would like to just touch upon the positive aspect. Annie, would you like to? I would just like to ask you one question on the mobile aspect. So you've got Playbook. You're also responsible for encouraging some of the partners to develop apps on tablets and mobile phones and stuff. So what do you think, in the context of your own mobile world, what is the next big thing? What could happen in the let's see through a crystal ball and see what you've got to say for all of us. What can happen in the next 2 years?
Well, my most favorite thing is the connected ecosystem. And I think there's a lot of technology, a lot of apps, a lot of devices in silos. And the need that we see going forward, and it's not just my personal thing, but what experts at the company as well have projected is the entire connected ecosystem and the need. For example, you have this application called Track My Car on your mobile. Now, when I park my car, why can I not just say Track My Car on my car, directly on the car dashboard, and then I'm shopping somewhere and I need to find my car. Now I should be able to find it on my mobile, because that's the screen I have on hand. So those sort of things require a lot more technology play, and I think that's big. Even if you look at entertainment, I'm watching part of the movie while I'm sitting at the dentist, but I want to come home and watch it on a big screen on my TV. Can I just walk in and turn to that channel and watch it on TV from where I left off? I should be able to, right? knowing where technology is heading. So you have the laptop screen, you have the TV screen, you have your personal device screen, you have the screen on your car, you have screens all over, but they're all disparate. And it's a pain for me to shift from one to the other now. Similarly, in the case of healthcare or any of the other verticals as well, the need to have a cohesive ecosystem where it's simple for the consumer to grab information or data or view content wherever I am, from whichever screen I have. I think that is something I think is going to be big. It has to evolve a lot more.
Yep.
Some bit of standards and stuff. At BlackBerry, we have made a start with the QNX platform. QNX is at the kernel of BlackBerry 10. It's also running the World Wide Web. It's also on the automotives. It's on NASA Space Shuttle. It's on your home entertainment systems. So there's a possibility here to connect all of this seamlessly. And that's what I think I would bet on.
Fantastic. So just on the aspect of the operations side in the educational field, Mukund, what do you think are the next big things in terms of the education industry? I know that definitely education in India and I think elsewhere as well has picked up momentum, especially given the fact that you can learn not just at going to a school and with the students, but you can actually learn from within your own iPad or your mobile phone. So they have really propelled that. So what do you think, or apart from the mobile and all these things aiding the education, what are the other things, especially in this field, that you think would be the big hits in the next couple of years?
The usage of mobile technology in education domain, it started about, say, a couple of years back, where at least in the Western world, it's accepted that students can bring in the devices in the school, which in India still most of the schools, they don't allow even mobile in the classes. So there it has started, and then with the content freely available on the net. So there are n number of sites which has all the educational content. So the learning process has become so easy for the children, at least those who are using such devices. And it's not only you're just sticking to your textbook and trying to learn only that much or go to library and find out some additional book. Here you find something interesting, you share with everyone, and it just spreads. So somehow this mobile technology with the continuous reduction in prices of the tablets, it has helped. So now a good tablet in India, you can get it around, say, 8 to 10,000, up to as low as, say, Akash, what they claim to be around 1,500 was the price they were finally quoting with Akash 2. Of course, it has a lot of technical glitches and still they have to overcome that. But this whole thing is going to just become better and better for the students over a period. Of course, at the same time, the other challenge is the students are progressing fast on these devices while the education system is not. So the teachers, I mean, most of them are non-tech savvy. So probably you have a bigger role to play as a tech savvy.
Thank you.
And I mean, we work with these teachers in different areas. So the simple solutions like, say, attendance system or something, any technology related things, there is a first barrier. Oh, I have to learn something new and I have to work something more. So there is not even understanding that this is all going to make your life easy and it's not an additional work you are supposed to do. And the things will change over a period. The privacy issues, what we mentioned, also are applicable in education domain very well. Recently, there was a news that someone came up with RFID chips in the uniforms. So, I mean, in collar or somewhere they will embed that RFID chip. It will remain even in the washing machine, nothing will happen. And you can track the child. But then the parents started claiming that tracking the child doesn't mean that 24 hours what he is doing, you should know. So, I mean, ideas are nice, and how they get implemented, that's what we all need to watch for. So, definitely in education domain, there is a much more role the technology is going to play, specifically the mobile world.
Okay. So I just want to pick up on the last one. You said that specifically in the mobile world. So Kedar, you've witnessed the revolution, or even rather the evolution of the mobile, right from Palm 1 to the iPhone, all through. I think you also worked on BlackBerry and Android and stuff. So in your view, with all the experience and the exposure that you have in this in the mobility world, what do you see as a next big step in the context of, again, mobile world? Let's talk only mobile. So what do you think is going to happen big time in the next 2 years?
I feel the next big step is going into like an always connected mode, because we are seeing, like what mentioned by Rajiv, there is a seismic change in the behavior of people which is linked to mobile technologies and social thing. So it has the effect on, like, there is nothing personal as having a mobile phone in your pocket. And if as a consumer or as a person I am getting more tech savvy, I want to be connected, I want to be social, I want to remain connected with my favorite brands. So from the way I see it, it is like everyone is connected because of everyone is carrying a mobile phone, a connected device with him. And it is for the consumers, like the point which was mentioned by Rajiv. It is important. It is a very important tool for brands to be relevant. Even outside their four walls of their store. Just imagine, like, we are going into the store, and whatever the branding which is done by a particular brand is confined to those four walls. And something like having a mobile phone in your prospective customer's pocket gives an opportunity for brands and companies to be as relevant outside those four walls of the store as they are within it. So it's a very, very, I see it as a very positive thing. So it's important for brands, for companies, and even for the consumers to be aware the potential which mobile technologies have. Like, we have seen a very great change in the way the technologies are adapted. Like in 2003, when I started working with mobiles, we are having devices with 200 megahertz capacity, the processing speed, and it was predicted that the capacity or the processing speed of mobile phones would eventually increase, and that's what we are seeing now. So everyone is having it's like a mini computer in your palms, with which you can be always connected, and that gives a very good opportunity for people to seek more information. And obviously there has equal, like from the negative side, it has privacy threats, like what you mentioned with Google Glass, but Google Glass is not actually the way it has been interpreted. It's not like when I'm wearing a Google Glass, I see someone and able to get all the information. It's not the case. It still connects with the mobile phone. So if I am thinking about face detection on Google Glass, I need to basically take the snapshot of the person, send it to my mobile. Mobile will connect to the server. There the processing would happen. It will send back the results to mobile, and then it will get displayed. So it's not actually, eventually it might turn in the way like we see in all those sci-fi movies, like you see at a person's face and you understand all his background and what he's doing. Eventually it might go, but obviously there are privacy issues attached with that, and that will come with any technology. So it's up to the consumer who is going to deal with that.
Right. So Kedar, you just mentioned about the presence or the experience, expanding the experience of the consumers with a brand, taking outside the walls. So you're talking about in a shop, if you go, and you're actually trying to say that experience has to continue even after the consumer, you leave the shop. So you're talking about breaking the boundaries. So just on that context, Ranjit, I would like to ask you, you're a user experience professional. So from the context of the experience that you're providing the consumers, what do you think had been the last couple of years, the change and the impact from these mobile and all the social aspects? How has it impacted in terms of the larger context of the experience from the consumers?
Okay. So user experience being a very key, playing a key role, especially in this specifically era, right from basically like, I think from iPhone, user experience basically like, people got encountered this term and basically like, and most of the users got used to experience different experiences, right? Like, downloading the apps or maybe like controlling devices. And so what it does, like, last 3-4 years, it's more of gadgets era, right? Like we got a lot of mobile technologies, iPads, and all of the things. So this really made users basically experience a lot of things. Their expectations got bigger, and they became more dependent in terms of get connectivity and basically like, getting information out of it. And mostly like, if you see, this is more of a like this era which is going on, it's more of data era. It's kind of data. It's all up to the surveys or whatever we provide. Basically, it's all about how do you take meaningful information out of that specific data, connected data. So with social media computing, with the social media played a vital role in terms of connecting all the people, in terms of creating experience, in terms of keeping it, picking your emotional network, into a professional network or your business network. So in terms of like, there are multiple factors to it. There are a lot of psychological factors in terms of like, in terms of perception, emotion, trust. There are negatives also a part of it. But like if you see the whole last 4 or 5 years, so look at people like, so if small baby born, basically he get encountered to the photographs. Let's say like, when a baby is born, so there is something, Rick Martin is the person who wrote a very interesting book on the big data. So big data in terms of what actually data means and like, how data is connected to the real world. So he has a very interesting photograph. I really love that photograph. It's basically like, baby is just born. Around 10 of his relatives basically taking the digital photos of that. Basically some with mobiles, some with digital photographs, and basically sending, uploading to it, sharing with their friends immediately in that particular second of time. So it's all emotional connection. So there are multiple aspects to it. So in terms of people are more used to network, connected, more connected, and getting more dependent on it. In terms of, there are hundreds of apps. If you see hundreds of apps, but like, some apps are successful. Why is that? If you ask that question, so there are multiple apps, like everyone is behind that, but only some apps are very powerful. Because the factor is, it has that richness, maybe it has the usability of the product of the app is very awesome, or maybe the service or the uniqueness, or maybe like, the memorability factor, or basically the likeness, or basically the usefulness of the product is really great than other apps. So, especially in the design and design architecture and all of this stuff, basically like, last these years is basically design is the key role, playing a vital role. So I think like the best example which we can say is basically iPhone. iPhone did not reinvented the wheel, okay? So what they did is basically they simplified whole chunk of it and did the basic features right, okay? So that really make the, in terms of basically like, looking at 80-20 factor in terms of like 80% users use 20%. The data or analytics helps you.
Yeah.
So we recently were doing one project on analysis of big data. So basically we were just trying as an innovation project that how can we make sense of data? So there is a lot of applications basically which are differently connected. Let's say in terms of, I want to understand my pattern, okay? So my pattern in a sense like, more of, can I do an analytics of my personal data? So what is my personal data? One is basically like, where do I go? I go somewhere, I go to office, okay? That's one thing. I travel here, that thing. And second thing is I eat something, which restaurants I go? What is my pattern over there? Okay. So what is my sleeping pattern? In terms of like how much time I sleep. Or other thing, personal data, in terms of email, how much time I spend on email? How much time I spend on browsers? In terms of basically how much time I spend on this thing. So there are different things which you do in your daily life. If you start analyzing all the data, so let's say you'll get to know, okay, so this month, most of the time you waste time in meetings. Okay, because it takes the GPS coordinates and put into that, and you also you can connect your mobile data and say like in terms of like, what is your, so let's say 1 month data of your mobile.
So just Ranjit, just on that, sorry. So I completely understand what you're saying. I just gave an example of this wearable device where it gives all the trends of your sleep, your eating, and your walking steps, everything. So it's a very good point. I just want to hold that point because I want to just touch upon that and come back to that later. So you're talking about, Ranjit has, Dr. Rajiv, I'll come back to you, is talking about big data, the capture. Every second there's a whole lot of data that we're generating either through Twitter, Facebook, there are a lot of photos, video shared, YouTubes and stuff like that. So I want you to now to go back to your previous role, previous avatar of the technical architecture, right? Move away from brands and marketing, and then think in terms of the technical architecture and the programmer's perspective. What are the various aspects they should try and cover if they really want to address this big data from a practical perspective? Because we're really talking about the huge data. You've got the data. What do you need to do next with that?
Yeah, very interesting question, and it's very close to my heart. And I don't have to go back. I think I do a lot on big data right now. Yeah, if maybe I'll just mention a bit, and later if I need to demonstrate in about 5 minutes later.
Okay,
if
good.
I have an internet connectivity there, I think
Okay.
I'll be able to.
Okay.
Especially what the programmers have to, the exact question that you have said.
Yeah.
See, one of the big data, especially when we think of brands, I think the kind of data is huge, huge, huge. Because what happens is, people talk about brands in social media, digital media, everywhere. In internet, people talk about brands. For example, I will take one example of Pepsi. Pepsi was associated as a lead sponsor of IPL. I'm just giving an example. So the kind of people were mentioning about that and talking about that, and Pepsi was running few contests, campaigns. So in Twitter there were specific hash codes. So there were tons and tons of mentions, and it was somewhere, it has crossed more than 2 billion mentions during the whole of IPL season. So we are currently working on, so what is the, from Pepsi's point of view, okay, people are mentioning, it is extremely important that what is that they are mentioning about Pepsi? Is it positive? Is it negative? Or is it okay? So that is one aspect of it. You can do it is called sentiment analysis. You analyze the sentiment of a mention, and then what is next? Just, okay, we would say that there was 60% was neutral, 6% was negative, and remaining was positive. But what is positive? What is neutral? So from a technology point of view, we need to analyze this thousands and tens of thousands of what people are writing, and we need to infer, the software programs have to read them, infer them to be positive, negative. That is not sufficient. So we have gone one step ahead, and what we are doing is we are inferring the perceptions. The perceptions are that, let us take the brand Pepsi itself, perceptions. They want to know how many people or what percentage of those people who have been mentioning about this, they say that I love Pepsi. And how many of them mention that Pepsi is pesticides? And how many of them mention that Pepsi is unhealthy? People are writing, people can write, it is public. I can go and tweet, and my friends will retweet, and I can put a post and my friends will do it. So this is an open field. So the challenge there is collecting from all sources, getting right, and then presenting to the end user or a brand, whomsoever it is, in a way, in a very consolidated way, where I think about 8 to 10 years back we have been talking about data cubes. Many of you know data cubes means, different dimensions, and there were tools came, no, I just drag and drop one dimension there, I see the data here. I think those days have gone today. So there are tens of 20, 30 dimensions, I think people don't look at. So you just bring the final insights. It is not just the metrics. There is no point in showing the graph. I show the graph, it goes up, comes down and goes up. So what we need to show is there has to be a facility, why that came down and went up and what is the insight. So the challenge is collection of this huge data. I can mention 2 billion plus mentions about Pepsi in digital space during 60 days of pre-IPL, during IPL, and that coming down that period, collecting it without missing, I would say 99%, because always 100% not possible, storing it, organizing it, analyzing it, doing a sentiment analysis, on top of that doing a perception analysis, and then presenting it as, okay, this is what. So the amount of software work that one has to do, the technology goes in is immense in that. So read something and infer it to be positive, infer it to be unhealthy, it is not that easy. That is where we are using artificial intelligence extensively to do such thing. At least 70-80% of accuracy we are getting, then remaining 20% is done manually. Nothing can reach 100%.
And that's where I think
you can get is good enough.
that's where I think NLP, the natural language programming, that even that is used there.
Natural language programming is a failed technology. I can say that as it is there, because what happens is natural language processing, you cannot go beyond 50-60%, because what happens is people write in English, not English. So when you have to analyze what is written in English, English means you write in English script, but it is Hindi.
And here it is Tinglish. It could be Tinglish or Tindi.
English or
Telugu.
any language in India. So what happens is natural language processing, NLP, what you have said, will fail in such kind of situation. We are using techniques like the Bayesian classification, neural networks. These two, a combination of this we are using, and we are doing the inference. So it is hardcore AI. So that is software systems. We need to build and we need to have that kind of scale. See, for example, we have a server of about 8 servers connected together on which only crawlers run. The crawlers have got 8 because you collect, you analyze, store, and then on top of that you do analysis, sentiment as well as perception analysis, and then you finally present in and if you see the user interface, it is so simple, and the user experience that we are talking about, then you can see how the big data is presented. If there is an opportunity, I think I can just show this, how we are presenting it in a very, and to bring it to that complex, to that simple experience level is a challenge for software. And not just programmers, everybody who is working in it, right from analysts, programmers, testers, everybody. So it's a very challenging, including the visual designers, because visual designers, the data visualization is a huge area today. It is not that easy. These days, just graphs and graphs, people will just close the software and go away. You show 10 graphs. But you need to go one more level above so that you can show the essence of what the graph says. I think that is what is critical.
Yeah, sure.
So big data is a big challenge, but there are solutions and people are working towards that.
So, Annie, coming to you about mobile, and you're talking about always connected kind of situation where you're connected irrespective of which screen or your context. So that is definitely one big trend, and I think that's where most of the things would definitely go. Coming to the IT, from the IT community, what do you think are the challenges and what are the opportunities lying there within the mobile field? Because you've got the BlackBerry 10 released recently, and I think it's fairly successful to that extent. It have got good adoption. So what is it that the IT community, what is it they've got to embrace in either developing applications or in developing platforms or in supporting these kind of interfaces and devices? What do they need to do?
Okay, interesting question. So with the whole connected thing, what has happened is from an IT perspective, you need to handle a plethora of devices, numerous technologies. Rajiv spoke about being technology agnostic, platform agnostic, etc. Underlying all this is a huge security and privacy need to protect and need to know who should have what information at what time. We discussed that, I think, between all of us a little while back.
Yeah.
That becomes key to a certain extent. And if you look at enterprises, and we speak to CIOs a lot, and if you ask them, is BYOD a reality now? Yes, it is. The employees walk in that door with any device they have, and they expect for all the data to be made available, all workflows to be made available on that, etc. But does even a single CIO, has he completely captured a security policy that can handle breaches? It's a clear no from the CIOs themselves. So they know that there is a need to support a lot of devices and platforms and technologies, but we don't have adequate device management on one end and the security policy which can handle those breaches. So we know of firms which have gone completely BYOD and then come back completely. That is one aspect. So what is needed there is a full, complete, suite and secure way of managing devices, managing applications, securing your personal data versus securing your work data. And then also the consumer being aware. And when you have this plethora of apps out there, app developers have a responsibility to make transparent what data are you accessing. Why should a picture-taking application access my emails or my file folders other than where this would go? Stuff like that. So from a IT perspective in the whole scenario, this is one of the aspects. And the other big one is the whole CMO versus CIO debate, which is very, very interesting. And I was at the CIO conference at ISB about a few months back, quite a few months back, and the big conversation topic there was, what does the CIO need to do to survive? You know, what is the next big thing that a CIO has to become? And part of that was that you have to understand the CMO needs, you have to understand the line of business needs, and be able to provide solutions which are needed for the business and be nimble and keep it secure. Because ultimately, whatever decision CMO takes on mobile apps and campaigns and stuff like that, when it comes to security and privacy, the CMO will throw up his hands and say, I don't know. That's for the CIO to decide. And if the CIO goes too deep into security and privacy, he'll never do any project. Which is the reason why CMOs bypass CIO and kind of do a lot of projects. We work with a lot of brands to help brands to target consumers through mobile. And we have seen very strong and fierce battles between the CMO and CIO. And I must say there are cases where the CMO has won, and there are cases where the tech-savvy CIO has, or rather market-savvy CIO has really won. So these are some of the interesting...
Cool. Just on that, I want you to hold it. How many of us here work on enterprise B2B kind of an application, or those which do not need end user or consumer interactions? Any of your projects, how many of you work on enterprise only applications, those that don't have anything to do with end user consumer things? It's mainly to do with the organization's base, either for internal use or intranet kind of a thing. You've got 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see that about what, 10%, maybe 20%. So is there any indication, Annie, that that we're really moving more towards the consumer space? Even the so-called enterprise, the big B2B kind of applications that we used to have before, are they also trying to get more consumer-friendly and more B2C kind of a phase? Do you see that as a trend?
Absolutely. One case in point is Low Linters, where they had this attendance application deployed internally. And they found the usage was low in spite of the fact that if you do not do this, you will lose your attendance. And they were the creative types, right? Lolintas is an ad agency, creative agency, so they would say, don't bind us by all that. What they then did was to redesign the entire application to make it simple, and then did a marketing campaign within Lolintas. And they said, and a majority were on BlackBerry, so they gave out BlackBerries every week for 100% compliance and stuff. And they saw from 30% the compliance to using that application rise up to somewhere to 92%, and an 8% still didn't want whatever it is, we're not going to do this kind, but they would slowly convert. So the key point here is even within an enterprise, it's very consumerish. And the walls between an enterprise consumer and a pure play consumer is changing, because companies are not giving devices to employees. You're buying it out in the market and coming into the enterprise, and they expect the same level of fun, coolness, whether they're using a photo app or a